things that they love or places that they love or anything like that. So it certainly is a real thing. Joanne?
Two thoughts. One is that, there's the shops, it used to be called shops, whatever it's called now. Are they, what are they teaching in that curriculum? And that's the practical application or in auto mechanics, if what, any of those things, are they incorporating that into their program? And there's also the entrepreneur course that they have, which my kids took, and they watched a bunch of Dragon's Den. So, I think there's lots of other opportunities for.
There's punishment or what?
They felt so.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing I want to mention is, I really respect the whole Indigenous thing, but I'm feeling a kind of reaction, and it's too bad Philip and Michelle aren't here, because I've been thinking about it, and I finally thought how to say it, is like my background, part of my background is Ukrainian, and Ukrainian Orthodox, and there's a lot of respect for nature in that. And the other thing is, like Simone Hangen, she's in her public pastures, and she works English as a second language training. A lot of the people coming from other countries come from situations where they really respected the land and nature and their cultures. And I think that we're going to miss something if we don't start saying other cultures also had in their traditions things that respected nature. So it's not to say devalue the Indigenous perspective, but I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I guess my dad collecting pussy willows in the spring was irrelevant, because, we originally came from Ukraine. And so I'd like to see that incorporated. It would have to be done in a subtle way, I think, but I think we need to do that, because otherwise you're going to be getting a backlash, against always talking about Indigenous and stuff. And I'll say this to Philip and Michelle, I'm not going to talk behind their backs or something, but I just was thinking all day about it.
I'd like to comment on that. I agree. And I'm actually part of a group in Saskatoon. We used to be called Saskatoon Churches for Environmental Action, and now we've changed our name to Communities Inspired for Climate Action, because we're interested in linking with many different communities of faith or communities of inspiration. And I'm actually putting together a bit of a book list, a list of books that are written from a few different religious or cultural perspectives that touch on, how to find nature revering traditions in different cultures. So I agree, and I think what is a little bit interesting about those of us who come from another continent is that our faith traditions tend to be maybe a little less rooted in a particular place. They're more universal, whereas the indigenous traditions here will speak of, spirit beings that seem to relate to, the particular places in the local land. But, in Europe we have both Christian and pre-Christian traditions that have, some space for nature. So.
Cool, thanks, Dave.
My name is Rochelle, and I'm a descendant of settlers, and I want to just express what I've been hearing this weekend is not that if you're a descendant of settlers, you deny any connection that your origins have had to nature. I think there is an importance here in these lands to respect and honor and give space to and hear the stories of the people in this land. And I have not heard any Indigenous voices this weekend say to deny any of our roots that might have connection to nature. In contrast, I've actually heard that we need to work on, you know, maybe getting back to those roots some more as well. That was even expressed this morning, I think, in your, that Sue brought up, you know, yeah, that all of us have been Indigenous to somewhere. Not that I would ever claim the identity of Indigenous anywhere. But I think, yeah, that hearing Indigenous voices and stories and perspectives from here is in no way, that's sort of the Black Lives Matter, All Lives Matter thing, right? Like, so I think we need to be mindful of that. And I mean, I know for sure a number of, you know, European descendant people who are trying to go back to their own roots that are more earth-based and pagan-based and nature-based. So I think that's totally legitimate and valuable, and I think we need to be careful about not hearing Indigenous voices in a way that we're all of a sudden feeling defensive of, well, we have also connection, because that's not what it's in an attempt I perceive to sort of deny in any way. But that's from my perspective of what I hear in these spaces. I get that it's hard to hear sometimes, but those voices haven't really been given place historically in these lands, so.
Thank you. I think, well, you had one question, Jonah, and then we're gonna wrap up here.
Sure, I was just gonna sort of touch on
Yeah.
some of the ideas here on the slide. For myself, I agree with you, it's much harder, I'm a high school-based teacher, so it's harder to take this sort of cross-curricular.
Right, yeah.
But I'm lucky enough to be teaching alongside someone like Josh Campbell, and our school is very open with different teachers being able to, I can go to them and we can talk about, you know, this is what I'm gonna be teaching in my next unit, is there any way that you can, you know, help this conversation by touching this, some ideas in this in language arts or in social studies or in Christian ethics or whatever. So I think we have to start thinking outside the box in the high school and get our students to start understanding that our subjects are not standalone. And I teach science and math, so there's lots of transition. I can say, you know, mathematics, you know, this isn't standalone. You're going to use it next period with me in your science 10, right? We need those skills. So what resources do you need? Well, it's the same old story I think we can always be saying is time. You know, the curriculums are so full that it's really hard to go deep into any particular topic for too long because you're robbing from another very important topic that needs to be taught. So time is always so limited for us.
Well, on that note, I think we'll head back to the main room for one of our last pieces of the event. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.